Those are our columns. Now, our cards are essentially our tasks. Trello calls cards tasks, whatever you want to call them. If you want to call them cards, call them cards. If you want to call them tasks, you can call them tasks. It doesn't really matter. Just try and use the same terminology if you're working with other people. So, for example, if you have a team of 3 people, then everyone should just be calling them cards or tasks. Try not to call them cards and tasks because it can become a little bit confusing, even though they're the same thing. So let's go ahead and create our first card here. And I'm going to call this task or card number 1, card number 2, card number 3. Optionally, you could call this task 1, task 2, or task 3. These are just, again, these are our cards or our tasks. From here, let's go ahead and create a few more. Go ahead and create card 4, card 5. And now we have our 5 different cards here that we can move from our backlog to our in progress. So once we actually start working on these, we can drag these to the in progress. And once they're actually completed, we can move them over to our done. So how do we actually mark tasks as complete? Because these tasks or these cards look exactly the same when they're in done as they look like when they're in our backlog. The simplest way to do it is come here and click mark as complete. And you can see we have this green check mark, which details that the card is actually complete. If you'd like, once you've fully completed a card or a task, you could also archive the card. You don't necessarily have to do this, but let's say that you have 40 cards in the done section and these different types of cards have been completed for a long time, then it might be useful to actually archive them. So I'm going to go ahead and archive these 2 cards here just like that. And you can see here it says card archived. Let's go into some of the different settings and features that we have within each card. As you can see here, when I clicked on a card just like this, it expands open a new screen. From here, I can edit the card name, I can mark it as complete, just as we can do on the board, and I can add any of this information. In this case, if I click add, you can see we can add labels, dates, checklists, members, attachments, location, custom fields, and a lot of different options for actually customizing our tasks or cards. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and click labels just like this. And from here, we can go ahead and assign a label to this specific task. So let's say that we're working on a task for a website design. This might be for a graphic design task for this website. In this case, for all graphic design tasks in this specific board, I'm going to give them this color of light green to signify that they're graphic design tasks. So in this case, you can see here, we have a label called graphic design. So any cards in green, we know are cards specifically for graphic design. So in this case, I might name this card number 3, design, homepage, graphic, like this. Now we know on the board that this is a graphic design task because it has this label. And additionally, I've given the card a more descriptive name to signify what this actual card or task is about. So we both know exactly what it's for with the design homepage graphic, and I know it's a part of our graphic design tasks because it has this green label. So those are our labels. They're relatively simple. We can create a bunch of different labels. We can use a wide variety of colors. You can really use this to structure and assign and dictate what specific tasks will look like and color code your various tasks. So those are our labels. And from here, you can see we can also add a description for a task. In this case, if this is for designing a homepage graphic for a website, we might say something like, let's create our homepage graphic for our website, similar to these example homepage graphics. And from here, I might do something like going out online and actually grabbing some links to put in here. So in this case, let's say we went out online and let's say that I typed in homepage graphic on Google. I might find a few different example graphics that I really, really like in the images or maybe on an actual website. And let's just say that I like this really, really basic homepage graphic right here. Let's say I like this one. I'll go ahead and copy this link or copy the image link. And then from here, I can just paste it in just like that. And whoever's actually working on this task can come in here and see the description and see all the different examples that I put in here. So I can add links, I can add files. There's a bunch of different ways that I can do it, but I can start making our task more descriptive outside of just the card or the task title. So I went ahead and saved the description. And if you ever need to edit a specific description, you can just go here, click edit, update it, and then click save just like that. From there, another important feature aside from our labels and description is our dates. From here, we can assign a start date as well as a due date. Not everyone assigns start dates. In fact, most people just assign due dates. So let's go ahead and assign this task from November 10th, 2025 to say Friday, November 14th, 2025. So if I want to change the due date, I'll go ahead and either type the new due date in, or I'll click on Trello's calendar just like that. And you can see the due date has been changed. I can either leave a time or take the time off completely. If I take off the time completely, it just adds the due date as a day with no specific time specified. And you can see here it updated the due date just like that. And this task is now due for Friday, November 14th at 6:41 p.m. Additionally, if this was a repetitive task or a task that we do, say, daily or weekly or every month, we could also add reoccurring here in order to customize it. So if we were doing this task every week, which obviously we wouldn't be designing homepage graphics for a website every week, but if we were, we could add, say, weekly, and we could see here, we can set a date for this task to be automatically reoccurring every week. It's a very powerful feature for setting reoccurring tasks. It's a little bit more advanced than what I would like for this course, but keep in mind, it's a very, very powerful feature that you can use in order to set your tasks to be repeating, especially if you have, say, tasks that you do frequently or tasks that are reoccurring. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and click never like that. I'll go ahead and set a due date as one day before. That way, this task is due on the 14th, but the team member who is assigned this task will get a reminder to start working on this task one day before the task is actually due. So we filled out everything that I want to fill out for this specific task or this card. I'm going to go ahead and click save just like that. And if we exit out of this here, we can see that this task is due for November 14th. Let's go back and I'm going to show you one more thing with dates here. Let's go to the due date and I'm actually going to remove the due date and I'm going to add a start date as well as an end date, a new one completely. So I'm going to go ahead and click date just like that. And let's say now that we want the start date to be on the 17th and we want the task to be completed on the 21st. I would enable the start date by check marking this box here. Then I would click on the 17th and then next on due date, I would click on the 21st or whatever date I would want to add. In this case, the task is now due to start on the 17th and the task must be completed or it's due by the 21st. Same thing, I can also add this as a reoccurring task and I can set a due date reminder. In this case, I am going to set the same due date we set before. I'm going to add the due date reminder one day before the task is due. So in this case, they'll get a reminder on the 20th that this task will be due the following day on Friday the 21st. So I'll go ahead and click save here. And you can see on our actual board, it shows that this card or this task is due to start on November 17th and it must be completed by November 21st. The last thing that I wanted to show you here is the members. So in order to add someone as a member in this actual task or assigning it to someone, we need to add them as a member here and click on their name just like that. So this is what it looks like when we add someone to the actual task or we assign it out to someone. In this case, you have to understand you have to add someone to each of your boards or your entire workspace in Trello in order for them to appear in your members tab here. So it's actually not as difficult as it sounds. All we need to do is exit out of our card or task, go here on our board and click share. And then from here, we can go ahead and add the email address of the person we're wanting to add to this board. One cool thing is we can add people who are both working on this board with us. For example, people within our team, contractors we work with, consultants, whoever we're looking to add, we can add people who are actually helping us work on this specific board, or we can also add people like our clients who need to view work in progress. So for example, if this was a project for website design for a specific client, we could also add them here so they could see how the actual entire project is progressing. So all you have to do is fill out the person's email. In this case, I added our company email and I'm going to add them as a member. If you have a premium plan on Trello, you can add them as an observer, which just means that they can't actually edit the board. They can only view the board. That's essentially the observer role here. As of right now, there's only two main roles within this board. There's either a member. If you add a member, they can go in once they accept your invite. They can start moving tasks around, working on tasks. If you add someone as an observer, though, they can only really view your board. So keep in mind, two main permissions on this board right now and on Trello in general. But if you have the premium plan, you can add someone with just a view-only access, or Trello calls it observer access. Let's go ahead and click member, and I'm going to go ahead and share just like this. Optionally, you can share the board with just a link. You don't necessarily need to just add someone's email and then share, but I'm just going to share it through this person's email right here. I'm just going to say join our Trello board, and I'll click share like that. And you can see here that this person has been added. They haven't created an account yet, but they're a guest for this specific board, and they have the permission of member. Now that we've added someone to this board, let's go ahead and go back to this card or this task, and let's go ahead and add someone else to this. So I'm going to go ahead and remove myself, and let's add the new person we just invited here. You can see this person now populates. We have two different members. We have myself here, and we have this work account that I created. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this task to our info account. And you can see this is exactly how you add members. If people aren't appearing here yet, that's just because you haven't added them to either your workplace or your specific board. And you can see here we've added this new person or this new member, and that's exactly how you can add or assign people to different types of cards or tasks here within Trello. And in this video, we covered a wide variety of topics. I showed you exactly how you can build out your first Trello board from a template in Trello, what each of these different columns symbolize and how you should start with these three columns here that I'm showing you on screen, how you can create your first cards or tasks within Trello, how you can assign them out to various team members, as well as add team members to your board through the share function here, how you can assign due dates, both start dates as well as end due dates, how you can complete tasks by moving them to the done here and clicking the complete button like that, how you can also add different labels, and how you can add description to each of your Trello cards.